Want to save some money on real estate commissions? I will show you exactly how to sell your house without ever including a realtor. All right, in this video, I'll show you exactly what you need to do equally of a good job than the best realtor out there without having to pay a realtor $1. Because it's actually not rocket science to sell a house. There's just a few things you need to do, and at the end of this video, you will know exactly which ones those are, and you will be able to save thousands, and depending on the value of that piece of real estate, that house or land that you're selling, even tens of thousands of dollars. All right, let's get going. So the biggest reasons why people sell their houses or land or any kind of real estate with real estate agents are really the following. Number one, they don't know how to get eyeballs onto their property. So they don't know how to market the property. Number two, they don't know the paperwork that's involved to get that property to the sale. And number three, they don't know how to negotiate with buyers on these properties. Well, guess what? Let's jump right into every single one of those because again, it is not rocket science to sell your own property. Let's talk about the legalities. Is it even allowed to sell your own properties? I mean, literally, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people that say like, what, you can't sell your property without a realtor? Particularly when we tell them about what we do in the land space. So my wife and I have bought and sold over 4,500 pieces of land and a whole bunch of houses, also on commercial property and so on. And for some of them, we use realtors, particularly for the commercial properties and things like that. But for the land and for some of the houses, we have not used realtors almost ever. We have sold probably 4,000 pieces of land without a realtor, and we sold probably 24 houses also without a realtor. So we know how to do this, and it's not hard. Here's the number one. First of all, selling it with yourself without a realtor, it's called a FSBO. FSBO, which stands for sale by owner. Very simply, every owner, you have the absolute right to sell this property. You don't need to hire a realtor. Now, there's a couple of platforms that most realtors go to, that most people go to, that you want to be on in order to sell that property. And the first platform is MLS, the Multiple Listing Service. So the Multiple Listing Service used to be a platform that was kind of like a monopoly only by realtors. If you're not a realtor, you couldn't put your property on there. Well, guess what? There was a recent landmark case, judgment against realtors, where they talked about that they can't charge the 6% anymore. So all of that is changing right now. And also part of that landmark case was a discussion over at least something about the MLS. And eventually the MLS will open to the public. But even today, there's already ways that you can get on the MLS. For example, there's a service we use a lot for our land that's called brokerlessmls.com. All one word, brokerlessmls.com. It's a guy by the name of Jack, at least by the time of this video recording, his name is Jack, who has a broker's license in all 50 states of the United States. And he basically, for a small fee of like something like $199, allows you to put your property, whatever it may be, land, house, commercial, onto the MLS. And he basically he represents you as a broker, but only on paper because he does nothing for you. All he does is list it on the MLS, and when a lead comes through, he forwards the lead over to you. So you handle their own leads, and that's obviously one of the things otherwise the brokers would make, but is it worth paying an agent 6% of a $500,000 home, which is $30,000, which is the annual income of some people in the United States of America, in order to what? Answer a few phone calls, show a house a few times, and handle a few pieces of paper? I don't think it's worth it. Therefore, we often don't use realtors. But you can easily learn this, and that's what we're doing right here. So with Brokerless MLS, you can solve problem number one. You can get the property on the MLS for a simple fee of between $99 and $399, depending on which state it is and depending on how many services you actually want. Second thing is you want to have it on Zillow. Now, in many places, that's already solved by having it on the MLS. Because the MLS has actually agreements with Zillow where they syndicate each other's listings. So if you put something on the MLS, it automatically gets fed to Zillow. So make sure when you go to Brokerless MLS or one of similar services like that, that you ask them, when you list it over there, is it going to be on Zillow? If the answer is yes, you're done. You have it on both the most popular platforms already. Now on top of it, Zillow and Trulia, which is one of the equally large websites out there. Zillow, I believe, owns Trulia, so if it's on Zillow, it also goes on Trulia. So again, you're covered whichever way by going on the MLS. Worst case, you also need to list it on Zillow, but that is free. You simply go on Zillow, you create a listing, you put it up there, have to verify that you own it, you have to verify that you're a real human, but other than that, boom, it's up there listed. So now we have covered that it's on the market. Next step, let's talk about negotiating. Well, if you're not an experienced negotiator, let me very simply tell you, it's not hard. First thing is also you need to determine the value of the property. Typically a realtor does that for you too. But all they do is they go on Zillow, they go on the MLS, and they look at what have similar like-kind properties sold in the area in the last 90 days. Now, if it's land, you can go back all the way to a year, but you simply look at it. If you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, with a 2-car garage, it's 2,000 square feet, and there's 5 other similar homes in one of these cookie-cutter communities that have sold within the last 90 days, and they all sold for $320,000 plus minus a few dollars, then your house is worth $320,000. If you have a 20-acre parcel outside of town and around it 5 other 20-acre parcels have sold for $500,000, then your piece of land is worth $500,000. It's the exact same thing. You don't need a realtor to figure this out. You simply go and look at what's sold, you have your comparables, and in a matter of a few minutes, you know what there is. If it's a little thin on comparables, you go flip it and look at what properties are listed for. And if you see there's 7 properties, 7 houses listed for $340,000, and there's a few that have sold for $320,000, then it's probably safe to say that the property market value is around $320 and a listing price of $340 makes sense because you want to push the listing price always a little bit. And then if somebody makes you an offer of $320, guess what? They offered right on market, you can accept it and you can move forward. The next thing is you need a title company, but that is also very simple. You simply Google some, most of them are good, or simply go, here's another tip, go to your local Real Estate Investors Association meeting. They usually, every smaller, bigger city has a Real Estate Investor Association. Google them. Go, they have a monthly meeting. Attend it. As a guest, might cost you $20 first time. And they have vendors. And they always have at least 1 or 2 title companies there. Go get their card. These are title companies. They're used to working with investors. They're used to working with investors who often don't work with realtors. So they're used to dealing directly with the sellers of properties. Next problem solved. Next thing is, how do you get good pictures? Again, same thing. Go ask a good title company, or perhaps ask some realtors. Everyone's brother is a realtor, right? So go ask some realtors for some referrals for photographers. Or just Google somebody. And then find a photographer, have them take good pictures of the property. That might cost you a couple $100, but you pay that anyway. Because guess what? You get a realtor, and they either charge you for it, or by paying them tens of thousands of dollars, it's part of what they charge. So you get good pictures taken, and now you got the full package. You got a good looking listing, you got it on the MLS, you got it on Zillow, you got it on Trulia, you have a title company ready, and if anything you might want to do, you might want to retain a good real estate attorney that helps you in case there's any kind of legal questions. Typically you don't need them, but good to have one in the back pocket. One other piece you might want to do is get a property inspector. Again, Google. They all are regulated by what they typically can charge. Check a few against each other. Or if you know a realtor in your neighborhood, if you have anyone in your network, anyone in your family, anyone in your friendship that knows a realtor, call that realtor, ask him for a referral for an inspector. Inspector might charge you $200 to $400 to do a home inspection. Get the full home inspection done ahead of time. And now there's only one question remaining. And that question is, depending on what is broken in your house, you need to determine whether you want to fix that ahead of putting it on the listing, or you want to go and engage in a negotiation with the buyer, because a buyer will always also do their own inspection and they will find the exact same things. So if you're ready to give that buyer discount, basically a price reduction for them to fix it all, then you don't need to fix anything. If you want that house to shine and not have the buyer have no reason to actually complain about anything, then you want to go and actually have those fixed ahead of time. Or perhaps you fix the worst things and just leave some of the other stuff and basically ready to give the buyer a concession of a couple of $1,000s for them to go fix it. But that also would happen anyway. That would happen with a realtor or without a realtor. So those are just things that are normal things that will happen in most sales of real estate. So in summary, at this point, there's only a couple of things missing. You as a FSBO, you really don't have the opportunity to do a broker's open. You don't have the ability to do an open house. I mean, you can get some signs out, but now it starts getting expensive. So instead, you're probably going to get a little bit less traffic than a good broker who can tap into their network and their email list. But if it's a good neighborhood that is in demand, that has lots of people wanting to live there, there's really no reason to go with a real estate agent if you're willing to do some of these things yourself, because you got to show the house yourself, of course. So that means the kids and the dogs and the thing have to leave the house, but you have to leave that anyway, because if the broker wants to show the house, you have to go leave it anyway. So other than that, there's really nothing else that happens, because once that property is under contract, once they submitted their change requests to the inspection, and once you negotiated all of these kind of things, at that point, you simply go and pass it all to the title company. The title company writes up the paperwork. The title company, the buyer qualifies for the loan. The buyer buys the property, and the transaction is completed. So again, in summary, there's just a few things that you need to do. You need to make sure it's listed property, it's seen by a lot of people, you make sure the house is in good condition, you make sure you have a title company at hand, and perhaps a lawyer in your back pocket just in case there's a big dispute that happens or something, you have some representation, and you have good pictures, and then get ready to receive those phone calls, get ready to receive those inquiries, get ready to show the house, and get ready to sell your own house. No realtors necessary, and depending on the price point of your house, again at the $500,000 house, you just saved yourself at the very least $15,000, because if you're open to having other brokers give you offers, you still have to pay them a 3% commission. So totally free it is not, because unless you really only want buyers that come unrepresented, which would really cut down your amount of buyers, you still have to pay a buyer's broker a fee, but you're still saving $15,000 at a $500,000 house, $30,000 at a $1 million house. You're saving the entire seller's broker premium on that end. And sometimes that's worth it. All right, if you enjoyed that, I actually got a surprise. If you want to know how to use real estate to build wealth, then very simply, I got a free book that you can download, and that book is called freelandbook.com. Has nothing to do with land, even though we flip a lot of land, but it's all about our wealth strategy, how my wife and I have generated a 9-figure empire on real estate from scratch, and how we have developed the strategies that I'm sharing in all of these kind of videos. All right, go to freelandbook.com, download it right now, and see you in the next video.